Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. We're going to stick with the current ongoing Arks of Omen narrative this week, as we discuss just who the prophesized Ancient Knight could be, if not the much hoped for Lion L. Johnson. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. And with that said, let's just jump straight in. So the Arks of Omen event is upon us, currently plunging the galaxy into even greater turmoil. The hype and hope has been that this further disaster will lead to the return of the next loyal Primarch, heavily expected to be Lion L. Johnson. And that hype then skipped a few more heartbeats when the first chapter of the Arks of Omen campaign kicked off with a ominous dreamlike prophecy mentioning a ancient knight. The prophecy began with a clear reference to the coming of Vashtor the Archiphane, with furnaces, chains and hammers. Then a crimson giant made an appearance, clearly Angron, who we've just had. And next up we get I see an ashen forest grow, and wither, and grow again. I see an ancient knight kneel upon his field of victory, and weep cinder tears. Now the heart hopes this is Lion L. Johnson, waking during the assault upon the rock, which we know is coming due to the Warhammer community reveal of the new Azrael model. Now the weeping cinder tears could be a reference to the lion witnessing what's become of Caliban, how the rock is all that's left of his former home. It could be a reference to him crying over the fate of his legion, or the Imperium at large. But even with it feeling like the lion is odds on that it must be him, let's be honest, we've been waiting and wishing for more Primarchs for years. I mean, I've still got the wanted posters out for Fulgrim, and Angron has literally just dropped. So another Primarch is still in truth unlikely. And I'm going to keep telling myself that to try and stop myself from getting my hopes up too much, even if it is in vain. If this ancient knight isn't the return of Lion L. Johnson, who else could it be? Who else could the description fit? Well, the possibilities of course are endless, but I think we could rule out any of the other loyal Primarchs to return. If it isn't Lion L. Johnson, it isn't going to be any of them. With the Grey Knights having a prominent role thus far, and their importance only going to grow as chaos continues to ascend, one possibility for me is Kaldor Drago. No, maybe ancient isn't quite a term I would normally use to describe him, but knight most certainly is. And with him being largely imprisoned within the warp, only able to reappear and assist the Imperium at certain times, who knows how long he has truly lived. Within the Horus Heresy series, when Horus Lupercal entered the warp to meet the ruinous powers, he fought entire campaigns within their armies, returning clearly aged. The assumption being for him he had been gone centuries, whereas in reality it had been mere moments. The same could easily be the case for Drago, meaning he could have been fighting within the warp for centuries, making the term ancient a little more appropriate. Honestly, until we find out a little bit more what's going on with Drago, we simply don't know. I think he also does deserve a little more time in the spotlight, in this time of real need for the Imperium. For the Grey Knights themselves, it really should be their Supreme Grand Master leading the way. Maybe it's about time Drago emerged from the warp, for good. If Angron can essentially exist permanently now, I'm sure Drago can return somehow. Now, another of the more maybe unlikely candidates that popped into my head was Dante, Chapter Master of the Blood Angels. If maybe the description is more poetic than factual, then maybe it could simply apply to a current character within the lore. And of all the big names out there, aside from Guilliman, then Dante is a logical option. He is old, very old. And aren't all the Astartes truly Knights of the Emperor in some way? Yes, it's a bit of a stretch, I'll admit, but again, this is an option if we don't take it all quite so literally. That this ancient knight does not actually have to be ancient or literally a knight. With an event affecting the entire galaxy, wouldn't we expect Dante to appear more than he has thus far? With a simple snippet of him discovering an empty ark. Imperium Nihilus has felt the force of Malak Bale's fall. Whole swathes of it have fallen to Khorne's rage. Who's to say how that affected the Blood Angels? And if there was ever a time for them to arrive, then surely it's now. Poetic phrasing aside, it's undoubted it did have a Dark Angel flavour, or at least that's where the mind takes you. And there are a possible couple of contenders, Lion aside. Could it perhaps be Cypher, quite clearly a member of the once proud Dark Angels Legion? Undoubted ties to the former Knightly Order of Caliban. You want an ancient knight? Well then Cypher fits the bill. No, maybe we don't think of him that way, with his dual-wielding pistols, but Cypher was a part of that order, and a big part. And with an invasion of the Rock on the way, do we really think it's all going to transpire without the appearance of the mysterious Cypher? I would not want to bet against it. The question is he going to be assisting the chapter, or working against them? Could we even finally get a reveal of who's beneath the hood? A return of Corswain perhaps? There's been theories out there forever that he could be Cypher. I personally struggle to ever see him fighting against the loyal Dark Angels chapter, but hey, who knows? I think Cypher will have a part to play, one way or another. In keeping with the Fallen theme, how about Luther? Another strong candidate for any Ancient Knight terminology. He was the original Ancient Knight, before L. Johnson even reached Caliban. The man who found the young Primarch whilst on patrol within Caliban's infamous forests. Perhaps this ancient knight kneeling in victory, weeping those tears, will be Luther, having devastated the Rock. Maybe having a moment of dawning clarity, a what have I done moment. Again, much like Cypher, Luther is obviously completely tied to the Dark Angel story, and anytime they move into major narrative moments, you'd expect him to not be far away, now that he has escaped the Rock, and is most likely heading that fallen force within the Somnium Stars. It's surely just got to be a matter of time. Admittedly, it is hard to think of Luther and not end up at Lion L. Johnson. However, seeing as we're trying to think of alternatives to his return, maybe there could be a twist in the tale. Maybe in an insane surprise, Luther and the Fallen could assist the Rock against Vashtor's forces. What a shock that would be. I don't think it'd ever happen, as I firmly believe Luthor is a traitor. But hey, maybe in some way he could be involved. Now, the final name I'm going to say is a theory that is admittedly out there. And when I say out there, I mean kind of crazy. But it is interesting to think about. And I am going to have to cover a Siege of Terror spoiler here. So if you're not up to date with the Siege of Terror, stop listening now. Okay, now maybe this ancient knight could be one Nathaniel Garrow, returned as an Imperial Saint. Within Garrow's installment in the Siege of Terror series, we've seen the Knight of Grey finally meet his end, dying at the hands of his Primarch Mortarion. But, as we know, it wasn't that straightforward. Not only did Garrow become empowered through the Emperor's Light via Euphrates Keeler, going toe-to-toe with Mortarion for a time, even wounding the Primarch, but he also saw the Emperor upon his death. Garrow fits the bill as an ancient knight, there's no debate about that. Saints of the Emperor are appearing in ever more frequent numbers across the galaxy. The war has now clearly moved beyond the merely practical. And let's be honest, big names have a habit of reappearing. Could Garrow emerge as a Saint of the Emperor? Something akin to Celestine, something beyond death. I told you it's an out there theory, but in seeing him blessed by the Emperor's power, in seeing him witnessing the Emperor upon his death, it all feels like it was planted there for a reason. That Garrow's story somehow is not over. Emerging as a Saint of the Emperor could just be Garrow's eventual fate. His service beyond death. But as always everyone, what do you think? Who do you feel this ancient knight could be, if not the return of Lionel Johnson? If maybe we have all been getting our hopes up a little too much, who instead would fit the bill as an ancient knight? Is it quite simply a reference to Rabute Guilliman, undoubtedly the most ancient man within the Imperium of mankind? Or is there another figure within the lore who could fit the bill, maybe a little bit more out there, such as Cypher, Luthor, maybe even a returned saint, Nathaniel Garrow? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.